Welcome back to the VET S.O.S show brought to you by the Who You Know Network. Remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline. We have another outstanding guest with us today in Tim Fedrick. Just amazing information he's going to share with us. So excited to get into this questioning here. But before we do, we want to thank everybody who has been pairing their channels with us, helping us get the word out, streaming our broadcast across their own networks to help spread the word. We owe you a huge thank you to help get that information out to the veteran community. I'm here with my partner, Mark. Mark, how you doing today?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Great to see you. Thanks for joining and tuning in. Let us know where you're watching from, what your base post-duty station is, or your city if you're retired. So appreciate you being here. And again, help spread the love by sharing the feed, tagging and posting, right? Tag those who you think would benefit from this content to your network.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, a couple things going on today. One, this is episode 20. Believe it or not, we're already up to episode 20. Very excited about that. Tim, we're happy to have you here today. Tim Fedrick's a former Navy SEAL who transitioned into the civilian world, an exemplary role model showing what it takes to be a great human father, husband, Navy SEAL, and leader, besides being a tremendous supporter of the veterans across the U.S. In addition, Tim is an executive producer and host of new TV series, Veterans in Transition, a committed veteran advocate, leadership coach, and Warriors and Whiskey Club ambassador. So I'm going to tell you right up front, Tim, there's two things that I absolutely love about you that you're involved in that are near and dear to my heart, and that is the veteran advocate and the love of whiskey. So we're definitely going to be talking about both of those. But how are you doing today, Tim?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys having me on your show.
And outstanding. It's been a great journey so far. Murphy keeps showing up every week and messing with us a little bit, but we're trying to keep the title away from him. We do appreciate you coming on today. So you obviously had a great career in the Navy. You did some amazing things. I know being career Army, I've heard stories. I've gotten to see some SEAL action in various locations. In fact, looking at your bio, you and I may have been in Ramadi at the same time when I was there with the 1st Armor Division, working under the Marines. Not sure if you were in that part or not during the surge, but definitely some ties there. We've been in some of the same locations, seen some of the some things. And granted, what you did is probably a little bit more adventurous than me as an intel analyst, but hopefully I provided you something you could have used. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I was in the Ramadi area, Fallujah, Ramadi, Baghdad area in 06 and 07. And then when I went back over to Iraq in 08, I was mainly in Haditha and the Asad area.
Okay. Yeah, that would have been the exact timeline. We were down there in Ramadi for the awakening movement with Sheikh Sitar. So very interesting time.
Yeah, 06 and 07, it was a bad time over there in certain areas, especially that Karma area and Ramadi near what we called the Glass House.
Yep, absolutely. So after your career, what made you get into the veteran space, working as a veteran advocate? I mean, aside from your service, was there something that drew you to it?
Well, I always like helping people, and especially military service members and veterans. In getting a chance to talk with people, whether personnel is in that transition space, depending on how much runway they have to work with during that transition, dealing with the VA. I hate it when people come back from deployment and then within 2 to 3 months, they're getting out, because you can't prep for that transition getting out. Even if you had a year and a half, you really can't do it effectively. But I see it all the time to where people will come back with a short runway, so to speak, and transition out, and promises don't come through with jobs that they're looking for. Their interaction with the VA doesn't work out necessarily how they had it planned out, and not enough contingencies, and basically just not enough time to plan effectively to have a smooth transition. And it's case by case, and everything is individualized for a transition depending on the person's situation, their family, what they bring to the table, their quals. So there's no cookie cutter approach to it, and there's no one size fits all. You know, it's what is right for that person's family, the next employer, and so forth. And there's just so many dynamics. So I always try to help people when I get the opportunity. And I've done several podcasts recently, so I get some phone calls. My phone goes off quite a bit, and then I help when I can. Just in all of that, veterans in transition. That includes when people come back from deployment. Some people's been in combat ever since 9/11 happened, you know, and still to this date. That takes a huge toll on not just the operator or the individual, but the family and veterans in transition. That's so broad. It's not just someone, whether they serve 5 years or 40 years, that are about to get out and transition over to the civilian sector. It's veterans and service members coming back from deployment, specifically combat zones or rough deployments where they lost somebody and they're transitioning back into their community, or they're with their family trying to live a normal life, and then it just don't work out sometimes.
That's absolutely true. I know I've seen it numerous times with colleagues and things like that, and even myself, the transition from time to time. You know, I've had a couple bouts with, you know, anger management and things like that. You know, these are, you know, things that you have to do, and as leaders, you get to use them as examples with your soldiers or sailors. You know, to show them that, you know, we all go through things. You know, and there is help out there, and you need to seek the help you get, because too often, I mean, we're still averaging roughly 22 a day in suicides, and that's just one's too many. We got to find a way to get people the help that they need.
Without a doubt, and it takes a number of people that are involved in trying to get, whether it's people getting out of the military or whether it's veterans that are coming back from those hot areas, I'll call them, overseas, getting them in the right program for them, because people will try to come up with a cookie cutter type approach or a one size fits all. And that, I believe personally, that's a mistake, that you need to find the right program for that situation, that member. And not enough people know about all the programs and nonprofits or organizations that do great work for people on a daily basis. Is just not common knowledge. And it's definitely not common knowledge to someone that's coming back from overseas and they get out on a short runway with very little to work with and very little knowledge in dealing with the VA and communicating with the VA and lining up their next job and where their family is taken care of. So just so many areas that need to be tackled to cut that number way down and then hopefully get it near zero one day. But that's way too many, 22, or sometimes that number obviously fluctuates, goes up higher. And that's just, we have to work on that. But that's going to take a huge team, and it's going to take a lot of people that's focused on working on that and getting that cookie cutter, one size fits all approach out, because it needs to be individualized to that situation and that person.
I think you're muted, Mark.
Oh yeah, I think so. Tim, hey, what's, you know, certainly that is a prevalent issue, probably one of the biggest issues. Let's just put it that way, right? But with the work that you're doing now and the support that you're providing, and even the network, right, with the show and the channel that you have, with a TV show, maybe not what's the most common, but what's the most prevalent need, right? What's the most difficult challenge that people are having in their transitions right now?
Well, I mean, that's a lot to that question, but when someone gets out, pick a person, whether they're a special operations type operator or just someone that's getting out of the service. The military leaders, especially for our junior folks, generally what I see the officers are taken care of for the most part. There's still a ways to go there. The senior enlisted are taken care of. I went through the Honored Foundation program, one of many great organizations that do great work in preparing personnel for that transition. But people and leaders specifically need to do a better job, in my opinion, of informing personnel of programs that's out there. And then if there's not a bill, let's say in San Diego location that lines up with a service member that's getting out, whether it be a SEAL from the Coronado area or a military member from San Diego or a Marine from Camp Pendleton, is if it's not a Honor Foundation program or a class or session that's available, then find one and that's right for that individual. But you have to know that member because there's many of these organizations that do great things, and they all get from A to Z differently, completely differently, as a matter of fact. Some programs last a month, some last 2 months, 3 months, some go out through a whole year where they meet once or twice a month, so how they get from A to Z, that doesn't really matter. But if something is not available in their area, especially before they get out, then work with that service member or now veteran and getting them in the right program. Like in Montana, you got the Commit Foundation that's in Bozeman. If somebody happens to be there, I bet you that a lot of people don't even know about that wonderful organization. But if you're in the Indiana area, you got the Catalyst program. In Norfolk, you got the Honor Foundation, you got Blue Water Advisors, which is a fairly new program. I could go on, and I would love to send y'all a spreadsheet of all of the nonprofits, and that's just a spreadsheet that I put together. And by no means is it all inclusive, because there's so many that I don't even know about, and I've been researching it, the topic, and since I did exit the military in November of 21. And I'm still looking for the right fit for myself, as far as I'm doing this just to what I can, and whether it be taking phone calls or taking Zoom calls or doing these podcasts to get the word out and about some of these programs. But I haven't found the right fit for me, and I've been trained on it, and I had a very long runway. So again, it's no one size fits all approach. Sometimes promises and jobs that you think is lined up or not lined up. And so as with military type planning, you have to have a plan. It has to be a good plan. You have to have a runway that is sufficient for your requirements and your family's requirements. And it needs to be tailored to that situation. But so hopefully that answered your question, but it's so many dynamics that go into that. But I think it's just leaders not knowing their people well enough, not knowing what program is best for them, and then to start not informing the service members of what's out there, whether it be in their area where they're stationed at and getting out of the military, or where they're moving to. If sometimes that timeline don't line up to where they get these services or some of these services before they get out, well, you can still help that person out, not just write them off because they're now out. But I see that all the time. And then just in my small community, and again, and this is not nothing against the officers, nothing against the senior enlisted, but a couple of months before I got out, after I went through the Honor Foundation's program, and my community is very small. Our teams are very small compared to other branches of service. And I would go down to the communications department. I'd go to the administrative or engineering departments, and people would come up. It's like, hey, I heard you attended a program that gears you for a transition. And then I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, how did you get into that program? Nobody took time to explain that. And in some cases, some people don't even know the program, the Honor Foundation, and they cater to the Navy and now SOF across the board, and all the branches of services now. Originally, 8 years ago, it was pretty much the SEALs and the Marines taking advantage. Now you have bases in a couple in Florida, a couple in North Carolina, but these, especially the support staff, and they're critical to our mission in whatever capacity you serve. They don't even know about it, especially the junior folks, and it's a shame. And that means that their leadership, whether it be their senior enlisted who probably did know about it, or their department head or division officer did know about it, they didn't share that with them. Or they found out that there wasn't a billet available, or so they thought, so they didn't share it. So there's a number of reasons, but getting the word out, getting people to the program that best fits them and their needs, their family's needs, and there's a lot of work to be done, and there's so many gaps and seams that need to be filled in those areas to do a better job with that.
That's 100% true, and we're hearing that time and time again. You know, you have to figure out what fits you, and there's 40,000 plus organizations out there, so there's tons to choose from, and it's easy to get overwhelmed. So I want to ask you about the Veterans in Transition TV show, but before we get to that, I need you to talk to me about Warriors and Whiskey Club as an ambassador. I am love whiskey. I'll say I'm an avid consumer. I wouldn't say that I'm an ambassador or a expert. So tell me a little bit about that. Tell us what that's going on. I had never heard of that before I saw it on your profile.
Well, Warriors and Whiskey Club, there's 3 clubs. You got the Warriors and Whiskey Club, you got the Veterans Whiskey Club, and you got the Veterans Cigar Club. The Warriors and Whiskey Club is for first responders, family of first responders, military, family of military, veterans, family of veterans. So basically anybody, most everyone can join that Warriors and Whiskey Club. The Veterans Clubs are just that, but it's not just getting together and having a great time. Yeah, that's part of it. But the main goals of the programs and the organization as a whole is getting people together, whether they're out in the middle of Montana or out in the middle of Texas. We have approximately 72, 75 ambassadors now, and their jobs is setting up events, whether it be in a park, whether it be in a whiskey bar or a brewery. It doesn't really matter. And whether you drink whiskey, whether you drink beer or sodas or water, the point is bringing people together. And if somebody were to have a problem or be having a problem, hopefully someone that knows that individual sees something and can creatively help out in whatever way. And then that could be a girlfriend or a wife or a family member that just happens to be there as well. Share something that whether the person wanted them to share it or not, if somebody needs help, it's just another avenue and another way to bring people, and especially veterans, to where they no longer have that swim buddy. They no longer have that battle buddy or that friend that they relied on, whether they served for 5 years, 40 years. It's not there no more. And then, so yeah, you can get together, you can have fun. You need to get there safely, especially if it involves alcohol, and get home safely. But the whole gist of it and the main intent, get people together, have fun, share stories, combat stories, funny stories, sea stories. And then if something is noticed, get creative. Don't put anybody on the spot, but figure out a way to where as a team, you can get somebody the help that they need. So that's the main intent behind it. But it's also, we're trying to spread out as fast and as effective as we can with the right people in the right locations. I think it's around 22,000 members in each of the different clubs right now, with along with the 75 ambassadors and the 3 founders. So in a city and a state near you, it's coming. It's just a matter of how soon. But when we do have these events, come on out, and and then a lot of the proceeds, and it depends on what those ambassadors can negotiate, but the proceeds go to NGOs or nonprofit organizations and foundations that do great work. K9s for Warriors, for example, they might get 30% of the gross profit from an event that lasted 3 or 4 hours if the ambassador can negotiate with the host site. And we're always looking for organizations to partner up with, corporate partners and sponsors and so forth. But the sky's the limit, and it all depends on what can be negotiated as far as what nonprofit organization or foundation that's just doing simply great work gets some of those proceeds. And if all the ambassadors do that and they pick a nonprofit or a foundation that they want to support, then I'm sure we can work it out and add them to the list that's currently growing right now. But Canines for Warriors is one organization that we are partnered with, and we always try to include them in whatever event that we host or whatever site hosts us.
That's awesome.
Sold.
Cigars and whiskey. I mean, you can't argue with the business plan. So, Veterans in Transition TV series. Tell us about this. What do you got going on with that, and why'd you get involved with it?
Well, the offer kind of fell in my lap, and I got involved because I got a message overnight from the president of Jewel TV. Hey, do you want to help veterans out with the TV series? And I'm like, I'd like to know more about this. I'm always looking for creative ways to help out when and where possible. And that's everybody, really. I'll help anybody that I can help out. And if there's a lesson learned that I learned over time, and I've learned a many, then I try to help others not relearn that same lesson. And work-life balance, we can get to that a little later because that's very important in whatever job you do, not just the military, but it's extremely important in the military. But I mentioned how broad Veterans in Transition is, whether it be shedding putting a spotlight on these nonprofit organizations and these foundations that are doing great work that not many people know about, getting the word out on them and highlighting them and entertaining an audience with the great work that's happening, and especially when and it's not just the soft community, but a lot of the entertainments that are there already, especially if you can combine it with a sporting event, and the veterans and the service animals that are out that's helping veterans, whether it be dogs, whether it be horses, the organizations that are providing surf therapy. And then again, some people, surf therapy won't do anything for them, but for some people, it really relaxes them. It soothes their mind, and it really helps them out. Fishing or getting back to nature, the specialized medicine. Let's face it, the innovation and technology is there. It's just getting people to what works best for them in their situation with everything that's out there. But so shedding the light on that, and then also shedding the light. One of the main intents behind the show was to shed a light on when service members come back from deployment, especially when you look at someone ever since 9/11 that has been every 9 months, every year and a half, been deployed to areas around the world in Yemen, Somalia, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan. Very, very dynamic areas to where something could be going perfectly normal 1 second and then not be anywhere near normal the next second. And they've been doing this and training for this ever since, and they're still doing it to this date. So when some people come back and they need specialized treatment or service animals or services in general that a lot of these great organizations provide, getting them directed toward the right program that best fits them, especially when people are just not ready, depending on what happened overseas, to get back into normal interaction with their community, or in some cases their family. Now, who wants to tell somebody that just got back from a very hard deployment that we would rather you go do this and instead of going back home tonight? Nobody wants to do that. But I mean, these leaders at all levels have to get creative and have to work well together as a team in getting people that they identify as not being ready to go straight back into their community, into the right program, and then allow them to go home whenever they're ready. But nobody wants to talk about that. So just shedding a light. The main intent was to shed a light on these programs that wherever they may be located at or headquartered out of, and they're across the U.S. And again, if they can't get it in their home port area or where they're based at, then send them where they need to. They're working very hard. They've been working very hard for a long period of time in a lot of cases. So pay to send them wherever they need to go. If it's Bethesda, Maryland, if it's the NICO program, wherever it may be, pay to send them there because they are going in harm's way on behalf of the United States, not just that command and that organization. So take care of them. And the leaders need to do a better job of taking care of people because, I mean, in my cases, and in as small as a community as I came from, nobody's calling to check on me. I'm not saying I want that, but in some cases, you know, maybe leaders should, you know, especially when someone may be, it has people's awareness levels raised for whatever reason or whatever sign they may have seen, because leaders see them if they're paying attention, if they know their people, you know, if they know their family and then know them in general, they see signs. Don't just because they get out, just, all right, they're somebody else's problem now. Take care of them because there's ways to do it. And there's creative ways to do it, especially with social media. But I see it all the time. People get out and they're on their own, you know, and it doesn't have to be that way. And in some cases, it leads to that number spiking that we talked about earlier that usually sits around 22 a day. It's just too many. But for leaders, if you see signs and people are getting out, don't just assume it's somebody else's problem. Somebody else will help them. Do your part. Help them, you know, because they probably really need it. And then if everybody does that and everything else we discussed and much, much more, then that number will start to decline. But it's going to take a huge effort and a huge team.
That's 100% right. And I'll tell you what, you know, Tim, you and I have never met before. I mean, we recently linked up on LinkedIn, but this almost sounds like a marriage made in heaven because what you're doing with that TV show is absolutely what we're trying to do with this podcast. And that's just spread the word. I'm currently going through the transition process, the transformation process, as we learned today, to get out of the Army. And it amazes me how many of my peers have no idea what's out there for them. And so I've been, you know, as I reach out to people, try new organizations, I've been trying to spread the word and bring people on like yourself to talk about the various things that you got going on and why you're in the space. So I think that there's a lot of things that the three of us could probably do together down the road to really help the community as a whole, just getting that information out there. So we're definitely going to have to talk about that. But we're coming down to the end, which I don't know what's going on today, but every interview we've had, Mark, is just gone by super fast. And it's like, I got 100 more questions I'd love to ask. We might have to go to an hour-long format. You trying to drop a bomb again? You threw the wrong one up?
Yeah. But hey, when there's fire, right? When there's flame being spoken, it goes quick like this. And man, you just got a ton to offer. Yeah. And I agree with Shawn, Tim. Like, I think that probably the biggest benefit we could help each other with is just sharing information. Yeah,
absolutely.
I got your LinkedIn here. I'm going to put up on the screen if people want to connect with you. As we get ready to close, how can people help you out? How can people get involved, whether it's through Task Force 808 Consultant, your TV show, helping other people? I mean, where do you need help, or where do you want people to try to get involved? We'd love to spread the word on that as well.
Well, these podcasts work; they do wonders. I mean, it definitely reaches a broad audience. So this is a great start in staying in comms with each other. I'll share that spreadsheet via email that I've been communicating with you on as far as all of the nonprofits, and that's just a list that I put together with you. And I have all the. I don't have necessarily the people's contact info that run them because I kind of stripped that, but I definitely have the location. It's where what the nonprofit organization is, their title, and where they're located. And via SEPCOR, I can get you any info you need. But getting the word out on where these organizations operate, where they're headquartered out of, where they have offices or branches, and then people and leaders can pick the right program that best fits either them or the personnel that they're trying to take care of. So that would be very helpful is with your audience and with whoever you have contact with, share that list that I'll send you, and then we'll continue to add to it, because like Blue Water Advisors, great leaders and that run the organization, they'll be down here in Pensacola at the end of September running a program. They're based out of Norfolk, Virginia. But a couple months ago, I didn't have any idea that they even existed. So there's so many organizations that are doing super work like them, and that just not many people know about. And the last I heard, they didn't have the number that they were looking for as far as running the course down here. Hopefully they do today have the people to fill up the course. If not, if you're based in the Pensacola area, Blue Water Advisors, and I can definitely point somebody in the right direction if you're here, or you can travel here. If there is still a billet available, then by all means take advantage. And whether it's the Honor Foundation, Commit Foundation, Elite Meet, I could go on and on. They all do super work. They all get ACP Catalyst. They get from A to Z differently, but at the end of the day, their product works, their services work, and people are very thankful that they were afforded the opportunity to take part in those programs. And then that's by no means, if I missed out and left the organization off, please forgive me, because that list is way more. There's way more organizations to add to it, and that's what we'll do in staying in contact. So that's how
I'm gonna hit you up too, Tim, because we got some plans. We're making some plans to get down to Gulf Shores. So I know it's just a hop, skip, and a jump over.
Sure is.
We'll go out and grab a flight of whiskey.
Y'all gonna have to let me know. I'll have to come stay with my parents. Then we'll just make it a whole thing down in Pensacola. Thanks again, Tim. And like you said, there's so many out there, 40,000 plus organizations, all doing their own thing, their own way. Great things. Appreciate what you're doing. Look forward to seeing the future success here, especially with the TV show and getting the word out. Just amazing stuff. And I look forward to our continued work. We're going to go ahead and close out. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Remember, don't drown in the sea of transition, but grab the VET S.O.S lifeline. Thanks again, Tim, and we will be talking to you later.
Thank you.